Okay, in the sampling methods, we will have random and non-random. All of you type R and NR in the chat box, random sampling and non-random sampling. All of you type triple S and C. Okay, all of you type SSSC. In random sampling, you will have what is called as SSSC. We'll go into the depth of random sampling. We will just touch base on the non-random sampling. We will not go into the depth of non-random sampling. Okay? This is a way to remember. Okay? Simple, systematic, stratified, and cluster. Okay? Now, collecting data, population and sample. Okay? Population is huge. We cannot measure all this population to find out some detail. So we need to take the sample and infer, right? Like even whether we see whether the food is cooked or not, we'll take the sample from the cooked food and see whether it is properly baked or not, right? Now, I will talk about a few things, measurement tools. What is population in sample? Sample sizes, random sampling, and the correctness of sample size. Okay, and some sampling strategies. So we have to have proper tools before collecting the data. What are these tools? Surveys, questionnaire, etc., etc. Okay, and some research that we need to do. And population. Population is like, for example, the whole of India is population, whole of your country is population. But if you want to know whom they are going to vote for, we always go for sampling, right? Which party will win? We'll take the sample and we will do that, right? Okay, so sample sizes. There is also a table to find out the typical sample sizes. What is random sampling? We are going to go into the detail of random sampling. Okay, what is the correct sample size? Okay, that is something that is available on the table, and some sampling strategies so that we can wisely ensure meaningful conclusions. Okay, so with that, I want to ask you this question. Let's see how many of you reply to this. Why do we need sampling? Why can't we do the entire population? Why do we need sampling? Just logically answer this question. Okay, it is cheaper, okay, to do the sample. Yeah, it is easier. Okay, because full population is expensive and time consuming. Nini tent, fantastic, correct. Cost saving, difficult for research. Okay, great. Okay, as you said, cost and time efficiency, feasibility. Okay, because sometimes it's not practically possible to take the details of the entire population. Okay, and it may not be accurate and precise if it is not representative, right? And it might cost a lot of money. It might call for a lot of resources, time, budget, and manpower. And then if you take sample, you can get some quick insights into what you want to analyze, right? And reduces data overload. So cost and time efficiency, feasibility, accuracy, precision, resource management, quick insights. It will give quick insights and reduces data overload. All right. Now, sampling method, we said there are two types of sampling method: random sampling, non-random sampling. If you want a statistical name for that, probability sampling and non-probability sampling. In random sampling, we said simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, and cluster. So we are going to go deeper into these four, but we will not go deeper into the non-random sampling, which is quota sampling, judgmental sampling, convenience sampling, snowball sampling, self-selection sampling, and all that. All right. So far, if you find it interesting, useful, valuable, fantastic, awesome, put it in the chat box. I want to draw inspiration from what you put in the chat box and continue with the session today. Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, those of you who stay till the end will get the complete presentations, this presentation also, whatever that I'm going to do, and also the Lean Six Sigma training manual. And For those who have joined newly, I request you to join the upcoming session. If you want certification, internationally recognized certification, you can click on the link and join my upcoming webinar. Okay, now simple random sampling. Let's check this. Simple random sampling is nothing but if you have a lot of people, okay, you just pick randomly a few people and collect the details like this. Okay. Now, what is randomness means? Randomness means it is like, you put the names of all the people in a piece of paper, put it in the hat, shuffle it and pick up a few chits out of that and call out the names. That is called random. Everyone has an equal chance for selection. Okay, there is no bias. Okay, we are not choosy about someone, and the sample must represent similar attribute and percentage as populations. Okay, whatever sample that we choose, okay, we should make sure that it is having similar attribute and percentages. Okay, and we should have a sufficient sample size. So random sampling is like putting all the names in the hat, okay, in a piece of paper, and like without any bias, without any prejudice, just randomly picking people. Just to give you one example, suppose if you want to estimate the average height in the class, okay, you want to select 10 students at random to calculate the average height. So what we do is we just randomly pick these guys and then try to calculate the average. So randomness statistically means every item has equal probability of being selected. Every item has got equal probability of being selected. If this is clear on a scale of 1 to 10, please give me a 9 or 10 if it is super clear. Simple, right? Now you have to pay attention for the next type of sampling. Okay, please pay good attention for the next thing. Okay, a quick question before we go. Which of the following is true about simple random sampling? This is just to test your attention. Okay, every item has an equal chance of being selected. It is based on selecting items using a predetermined rule. Randomly selects groups instead of individual items. It introduces sampling bias internally. So which is the correct answer? Just now we discussed, so it must be easy for you to answer. Okay, unanimously the answer comes as every item has an equal chance of getting selected. Fantastic. So let's quickly get into what is called as stratified random sampling. Stratified random sampling is nothing but if earlier you saw all the blues and greens were mixed together. Now what we are doing is we are separating all the blue people, blue collared and green collared separately. Okay, and from there we are picking randomly. Okay, so the population is divided into subgroups with different attributes. Here in this case, green and blue. For example, a shipping company divides delivery into distances within 200 miles or 201 to 400 miles, 401 to 600 miles or over 600 miles. Okay. So randomly sampling from each subgroup ensures more accurate, unbiased representation of the population. Now we have differentiated based on, we have stratified them, okay, based on certain attributes. In this case, the attribute is green and blue. Okay, and from there we are taking random sampling. Okay, so this ensures representation. This approach helps capture variability across different strata. Okay, across different strata. So let me also explain you with a different example. Suppose if this is a huge population, you find in the population, some pink guys, blue guys, gray guys, green guys, and all that. Now you start stratification, okay? The strata, blue separately, green separately, pink separately, and gray or black separately. And then you do random sampling from these guys, okay? You see this guy selected randomly, this guy selected randomly, and finally you find this sample. Finally, you find this sample. So if this is clear on a scale of 1 to 10, please give me a 9 or 10. If it is super clear, I've made a lot of efforts to really help you understand step by step. And if you really like this way of presentation, give me a thumbs up. I'll draw some inspiration from all your comments. Because as a trainer, I too need some motivation, right? For coming online in front of you and sharing all this knowledge in a very interesting and engaging and fun way. I hope you're all having fun, interesting, you're all enjoying, because this is a dry subject. I want to ensure that you guys really enjoy and have a lot of fun. Okay. Thank you very much for this fantastic. All right. Thank you. So don't miss to join this upcoming webinar, okay, where you can get internationally recognized certification. Okay. Now, to estimate consumer spending pattern, this is a stratified, okay. So for example, a clothing company, you can have clothing, food, other. This is called strata, okay. We are trying to find out the customer spending pattern in UK, for example. Okay, so there are many retail stores. So we are trying to break that into different sectors, clothing separately, like the blue ones and the green ones we separated. Here we are separating out the clothing, electrical, food, and others, so that we can see the consumer spending where it is more, whether in clothing or electrical or food or others. Okay, the population is stratified into groups with random sample selection from each group. Or in other words, it is like this. Okay, from here you select people randomly and ask their expenditure. Okay, how much do you spend? Okay, from food you select people randomly, from electrical you select randomly, and do this. All right, so I want to compare between simple random sampling versus stratified random sampling. Okay, in simple random sampling you select people randomly with everybody mixed together, but in stratified random sampling you separate out the blues and greens separately, and then you select randomly. That's the difference between. I just want to show the quick comparison so that you're very clear. Okay, the question is now, what is the main feature of stratified random sampling? What is the main feature of stratified random sampling? The entire population is divided into subgroups and samples are randomly chosen from each subgroup. Each item in the population has got equal chance of selection. Samples are selected based on convenience from single group, or only the items with specific characteristics are chosen from the entire population. I think this is straightforward because we just discussed a few minutes back. All right. People are pouncing on the answers. Thank you very much for your active participation. All of you are amazing. Okay, it's correct. And the entire population is divided into subgroups and then randomly chosen from each subgroup. Fantastic. Let's go into systematic random sampling. Okay, all of you type SRS in the chat box, systematic random sampling. All right, okay. Now, systematic random sampling is, that is a sort of pattern to the selection of the sample. I'm selecting every third person. If you can see that, type ICS, I can see in the chat box. I selected this person, 1, 2, the third 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 person. Okay, so that is where does this help? Let's see. Okay, where does this help? See, all the sampling helps in different areas. Okay, so based on what decision that you want to make, what conclusions do you want to draw, you need to choose the type of sampling. Okay, definition is selects every xth item, like here the third item, at regular intervals, like for example every 10 minutes or every fifth product, etc. Okay, time-based data collection or physical product-based sampling, every fifth item in the production line or every 10 minutes. Okay, it can provide some valid statistical results with right parameters and sufficient time. Okay, sometimes you should be cautious of the potential bias because something can be recurring. Okay, so you have to be careful with that. I'll help you with a different example. For example, if you see a lot of people here, so I ask every 10th person on the opinion on the state of economy. I pick up something like this. I pick up this guy, 10th guy, and then the next 10th guy I pick up, and then the next 10th person that I pick up. Not guy, okay, 10th person that I pick up, because the third 10th person used to be a girl. Okay, now This is what is called as systematic random sampling. How does it help? Particularly who are here from manufacturers, you'll appreciate this. You are producing millions of parts. Okay. Now you have to choose every hour, for example. Okay, every hour or every 2 hours, some samples like this. And then, or you can say that every 1,000th item, every 10,000 item, after that you can choose. In this way, your sampling is much better. Okay, you cannot measure all the million pieces that are coming out, and you have to choose probably every hour. If you see, okay, you know that the entire hour is a representative of that particular sample that you have taken, whatever is the history, right? So if this systematic random sampling is clear, all of you give me a 9 or 10 if the systematic random sampling is super clear. Okay, are you ready for the question and answer on systematic random sampling? All right, good. Okay, the question is this: what is a key characteristic of the systematic random sampling? Each item in the population has equal chance of selection. Items are selected based on convenience. A fixed interval is used to select items on the list, and only items with specific attributes are selected. Okay, so which is the right answer here? Yes. Fantastic. So all of you are very attentive. The correct answer is a fixed interval is used to select items from the list. Congratulations to all of you. Okay. Right. So cluster sampling. What is cluster sampling? So what you do is you break that into clusters. For example, manufacturing cluster. If you say industrial area, we say industrial clusters, right? Manufacturing cluster. IT hubs. Hub is also a cluster, okay? IT hubs. And so on and so forth, okay? Service cluster, stuff like that. So definition, a sampling method where the population is divided into naturally occurring groups or clusters, and random selection of entire cluster is made for analysis. So cluster represents the small scale versions of the overall population, useful when populations are large and geographically spread out. Sampling a few schools from city to study the student performance. Okay, the advantages are cost effective and particularly large population. So, okay, everything has a pros and cons. In this, the disadvantage is potential for higher sampling errors if cluster are not representative. Okay, now I'll summarize all the sampling we have studied. Simple random sampling. Okay, systematic random sampling. Simple random sampling is you just in the population randomly pick people. Systematic is you pick every nth person, here in this case every third person. Stratified is you group them into blues and greens and accordingly select randomly from them. And cluster is you make groups, okay, and then randomly select groups and do the things. Okay, so if this is super clear, type SC, super clear, in the chat box. All right. If you haven't still joined my upcoming webinar, please click on the link and join. There's a question on the cluster sample. Which of the following statement best describes the cluster sampling? Okay, the population is divided into subgroups and all the subgroups are sampled. Okay, the entire population is sampled randomly without division, and the population divided into clusters. And some clusters are randomly selected for analysis. All individuals in the population are selected for sampling. Now, I think all of you will tell the right answer. Okay. Fantastic. Congratulations. Those who typed C, C is the right answer. Okay, give a pat on your shoulders that you have answered right. Awesome. Non-random sampling. We said random sampling, where simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, and systematic random sampling, and cluster sampling. Now we'll go into non-random sampling, and non-random sampling is this introduces bias and error unsuitable for any statistical analysis. Okay, convenience sampling. purposive purposive sampling or judgmental sampling we call, quota sampling, snowball sampling. I'll quickly introduce, okay. Non-random sampling samples introduce errors that cannot be statistically accounted for, unlike a random sampling. Okay, so let me explain to you quickly. Okay, let's say that this is a group of people. Okay, so whoever is easily accessible to you, okay, whoever is in the front desk, you call them. This is called convenience sampling. Okay, selecting mostly very easily accessible data points in the, when whoever is in the gone to school, no, they always avoid sitting in the front bench, because if you're sitting in the front bench, it attracts teachers attention, and you'll be called out for some questions and some behaviors, right? How many of you can relate to what I'm saying? Just type I see, or I can relate in the chat box. How many of you had some experiences in the school time where you went into the back desk because you don't want to gain the attention of the teacher, and hence, because teacher sometimes does not randomly select, they'll keep on, if you're in the front, they'll ask a lot of questions, right? That's called convenience sampling. And if somebody wants any help, magicians, for example, people who are sitting in the front, they'll call whoever is convenient to be called. They'll not call the people who are in the last corner, okay? They'll call whomever is convenient, they'll call. Right? So convenience sample is clear. Okay, now the second is called purposive sampling. Okay, purposive sampling is based on specific characteristic or purpose. Okay, specific characteristic or purpose. Okay, for example, you check whoever is fair, you call them. Okay, whoever is wearing spectacles, you call them. Okay, whoever is having this or that, you call them, right? So this is called as purposive sampling. Okay, if purposive sampling is clear, all of you type SC, super clear, in the chat box if purposive sampling is clear. All right, fantastic. Let's go to the next sampling methodology. It's called quota sampling. Okay, in different countries, there are, particularly in India, is very bad. Okay, I don't like this quota system in India. Okay, I'm going on record, I'm telling this. I've been a victim of that, because for my caste and my religion, there is no quota. For the others, there is a lot of quota. I got 97.5%. I didn't get selected for the premier college. Whereas the other community who had even 78% or 80%, they got selected despite me way ahead of them. And I had a bad experience during my college days. That's because of quota sampling. Okay, how many of you can relate to what I'm talking about? Type ICR in the chat box. This is called, I told this example because I have no regrets now, because all this has made me a much better version. Okay, I proved to the world that, okay, despite all that, will come successful, right? Right. Okay, right. So I particularly told this emotional story because I want you to remember what is quota sampling. Okay, right. No, snowball sampling. Snowball sampling is like participants recruit each other. It's like, you find a similar person and take samples from them. Like, for example, find out high income groups. First, you find two of them, and they can in turn find a few of them of the similar profile, and they can, in fact, find out the few with certain characteristics. Okay, multi-level marketing, they do all this type of snowball sampling, okay, to find out who can be fit for their marketing. If snowball sampling is clear, please give me a 9 or 10 if it is super clear. Okay, so the question answer, which of the following is true about convenience sampling? It ensures that each item has equal chance of selection. It's based on selecting the most readily available samples. Samples are randomly selected from stratified groups, eliminates sampling bias. So let's quickly see in the chat box what's the right answer. Perfect. Congratulations, those people who typed B in the chat box. You deserve a pat on the shoulders, okay, and you deserve a lot of chocolates today for typing B in the chat box. Okay, fantastic. Awesome. Okay, snowball. Participant, which statement best describes snowball sampling? Participants selected using random sampling from the population list. Participants refer other participants to study to create the chain. Samples are selected based on convenience and accessibilities. Fixed interval is used to select participant sampling. What is the correct samples? Now with the learning short time ago, you can easily type, okay? Yes, participant B is the right answer. And all of you who typed B deserves a lot of chocolates today and also a lot of flowers, okay? And a pat on your shoulders, okay, for the right answer. Superb. Okay. Now, very important thing is what cannot be measured cannot be improved. How many of you agree? Type agree in the chat box. How many of you super agree? Type S. Say super agree in the chat box. What cannot be measured cannot be improved. You have to measure it to improve it because you need to know where you are now and where you want to go later. Right. So the baseline metric, for example, if you want to reduce the weight, you need to know the current weight. Okay. If you want to improve your sugar levels, you need to know what sugar levels are you performing at now. If you want to reduce your blood pressure, you should know the details on what your current levels of blood pressure is. So purpose is provide a reference point to compare current and post improvement performance. After improvement, you will know. But the best way to always represent is graphically. Okay, graphically. Metrics are most impactful when presented graphically for quick insights, visual insights. So, for example, this is called as Pareto charts for discrete data. You know, if you want to know about discrete data, continuous data, you'll have to watch my earliest session on data sampling in the same chapter. Okay, discrete samples, you use Pareto charts, and for continuous data, you use run charts, control charts, and stuff like that. Okay, so visual helps a team execute, track progress easily. The reason that I'm sharing is once you have taken the samples, plot them so that you can visually see them. It's very important to know the current state. So finally, we are coming to the measurement toolkit checklist. Now, it is very important that in the DMAC methodology, I want all of you to type DMAIC in the chat box. Define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. We are coming to the end of the measure phase, and each of them have to pass through certain toll gate. Unless you qualify on all this checklist, you will not be allowed to go to the next phase. Okay, you will not be allowed to go to the next phase. Okay. So there is a checklist in the, when you reach the toll gate, you will be checked for this. What will you be checked on? Let's see. You have to establish key measurements and baseline performance. Okay. Measurement system analyzed and potential errors must be identified. We have spoken about MSA in the earlier sessions, measurement systems, how they affect the performances. And if measurement system is not up to the mark, you have to correct the errors wherever possible. And you have to calculate the sigma level, process variation in sigma level is calculated, and sampling is conducted for statistically valid conclusions. That's what we did today. And then finally, sponsor and champions reviewed and sign off. Okay. All right. So we have come to the end of this particular chapter.